Welcome to installment number 3 of the 2021 Corti webinar series. My name is Brady Lavin. I'm a key account manager at Corti. With me is Tim Johnson, also a key account manager at Corti. I've been in public safety for about 9 years now, worked in various capacities and focusing really heavily on quality assurance, and that's what we'll be focusing on today. Tim, if you want to introduce yourself as well.
Tim Johnson. I'm located in the Dallas, Texas area. I've been involved with technology such as artificial intelligence, speech recognition for a number of years, and excited for everyone to join us today.
Wonderful. So the big title of the webinar is 5 ways to use AI to better measure performance in your PSAP. So I'm going to share a presentation and we will take some 5 loose high-level areas. One quick disclaimer is when AI is the subject, over and over and over again, people get scared that you're trying to replace human jobs with AI, and that is absolutely not something that is in our plans as a company at Corti. Our goal, our mission is to help human clinicians and call takers be better at their jobs using artificial intelligence. And disclaimer number 2, this webinar, we're going to focus on the quality assurance, the analytics side of things. We're not going to focus on the call taking guidance part of what Corti does. That will be a separate webinar. We're really going to dig deep on the quality assurance and analytics side of things. So if you're wondering, do they do some of this stuff live? We'll mention some of these things are doable live. That would be, we're not going to get in detail there. We'll do that on a subsequent webinar, or of course on a live demo if anybody really wants to get detailed. So the first challenge that we're going to talk about is black hole. This is there was that 2020, like they actually took a photo of the black hole. Help, I've fallen into a black hole and can't get out. What is that going to mean in terms of quality assurance? That will make sense in a little bit. Second topic, we're going to talk about bad calls. You might notice that this is Sean Payton, the head coach of the New Orleans Saints, really upset about a bad call that was made in the NFC Championship game. Actually, it was a no call that they probably would have gone to the Super Bowl, but it was a bad call. He doesn't like it. Nobody likes bad calls, and nobody likes when in the quality assurance process, you're always pulling the bad calls. Hear that all the time. Third thing, CARC, that's a Starbucks cup. Starbucks gift card or no Starbucks gift card, that is the question. We're going to talk about some leaderboard stuff, some really interesting concepts there. Then I was looking for funny pictures, how quickly I typed it into Google search, bunch of really weird negative things here. So then I went with how fast. All right, that's a little bit better. How fast is Usain Bolt? How fast is Sonic? How fast can you queue 33 calls? And then the last thing we'll touch on is big data. This is funny, all right? We're taking big data to the next level, humongous data. But the big point is that real big issues need real big data. And a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, this is it's serious, it's life and death, but we are trying to keep it light, trying to keep it fun. So to start, we're going to talk about the black hole. Help, I've fallen into a black hole and can't get out. But first, we're going to do a little poll. Make sure we can kind of understand the way you guys are doing things right now. Tim, could you set that poll up?
There we go.
Of the total medical calls. And when we do this, maybe Tim, you want to just go through read the poll question out loud?
Yeah. What percentage of your calls at your call center are you actually manually QAing, and you're doing it consistently?
Medical calls. Medical calls.
Yeah. EMS medical calls, yes. So there we go. We'll end the poll.
All right.
Share
So it looks
results.
like-
Let's see if we share the results.
Yeah. So it looks like
Yeah.
2 out of 3 of you participated in that, and we've got not a lot of quality assurance going on, which is, it usually runs the gamut. I've got up to 10% and then 11 plus. That's really common to hear both ends of that spectrum. Probably the highest percentage I've heard is around 10%. But you've got the whole gamut where it's 2%, 3%, 7%, 10%. Oh, and then we've got to share results. So it's in this option. Oh, I see what's going on. Let me just close that. Okay, cool.
So how do we shared the results, right?
There we go. It was on my end. So if you're QAing 3% of calls, those 3 blue dots, those are the calls you're getting information on, you're getting actual data on. When you review those calls, a lot of them, a big chunk of them are pretty routine calls. There's nothing remarkable about them. The things that you're looking for that you want to make sure you catch in that quality assurance review process with your EDQs, that's going to be a really small percentage of that 3%. So really, you're only getting usable data on a tiny, tiny slice of your total calls. Now, some of you might be sitting here and thinking, well, shoot, Brady, we do 10%, not 3%. That's way more. Okay. You do 10% review, then the small percentage of those are actual usable, interesting data that might be useful to improve your training programs and team performance. It's still a tiny, tiny percent of all of these calls. And that's really the point. So, all right, you've got this tiny percent that you have good data on. The rest of that, 90+%, this big black hole. And usually to get data, to get an idea of what's going on in that, 90+% of calls, it's going to take complaints from the field crews, maybe complaints from the public calling in, hopefully not, but maybe hearing it on the 6 o'clock news, something went sideways, or something went viral on Twitter. Somebody took everybody's got a recording device in their phone, post something on Twitter, on Reddit, or a call from a media member asking you, Mr. Director, for a comment on a call that you aren't aware of. And then you got to go into the call recorder. You got to find that specific call. You got to listen to it and better understand what's going on. So Tim, how are we helping find some better data in that 90+% of calls?
Well, exactly what you said is you've got this black hole, and in the IT world, that's known as unstructured data. So the vast amount of information that comes into a PSAP call center is in the way of a voice recording, and that is totally unstructured data. So what we attempt to do is to take all of that unstructured data that's coming across on 911 calls, and we're going to put some structure around that using artificial intelligence. And you talked about artificial intelligence, and the best definition that I've heard of artificial intelligence is what could only be done by humans before, such as QA and the QA process, is now done by a machine. So what we're going to do is, instead of looking at, say, a typical call center with 3% manually QA calls, what we're going to do is analyze 100% of those calls, because we're going to structure the data in such a way that the machine does it for you. So what does that data look like once we put it in a structure? And one of the things that we're going to do is to put it in this performance management dashboard that you're able to look. And what you're going to see at a quick glance is how well is your call center performing. And not only that, to do a deeper dive, that you get some real good analytics about where are the areas most needing improvement, and where are those areas where they're most strong. The three key areas, there's a lot of detailed information that we can provide, are going to come into the speed to key questions. So how quick are we getting to the pertinent questions to detect whatever illness it is that the caller's calling about? The second one revolves around customer service. That's how well is your call taker? Are they using too many fill words? Are they possibly using profanity or stacking questions in a way that makes it difficult for the caller to respond? And then the last one, we're going to take a look at how well are they adhering to the protocol standards that you have for your call center. The one of the key things here that we hear over and over and over again is when things get busy, when things get turned upside down, is QA is the first thing that gets left behind in that. And you have all of that data that you can mine to show to help with training and show an improvement in your center. Well, obviously, you're not going to do that if you completely abandon that. With Corti, that's no longer an issue because we're automatically scoring 100% of your calls. Again, you can do a deeper dive into look, and you can look at this at the center. You can look at it by shifts. You can look at it on individual call takers all the way down to an individual call. That again, we're going to show you those areas that are low scoring and high scoring. So you really know one, how to reward top performance. And at the second time, you can look and say, hey, are we picking up on trends with a particular call taker that we need to do some additional training to that? And you're able to filter those calls by the severity of the call, the protocol used, and the score that we assign to that call. So if you want to go and look at particularly high scores, is why are our call takers doing so well? Or even the low scoring calls, that if you want to go and get some useful insight into that you've got the search capabilities to go in and mine that data.
One thing I wanted to add on to that is, some of you are probably thinking, okay, this is cool. How do you do that? How is AI doing all this stuff? We will get to that. It'll be just a couple minutes down the line, focusing on some of the things that are possible. And then we'll talk a little bit about how that all actually works with the AI, what the AI is doing in the background in order to gather all this data and serve it up to leaders of PSAPs. So the next thing we wanted to focus on was, we hear it all the time, they always pull my bad calls, or alternatively, okay, Mike does my QA reviews, Mike doesn't like me. So it's, there's potentially some bias in that. So Tim, you had a good kind of story you heard from one of our potential customers when you were talking with them. Could you kind of relay that?
Yeah, the particular call taker, they had some turnover and some manpower issues. And so a particular call taker was asked to stay longer than his normal shift. And if you looked at the vast majority of his calls, he felt like that he was doing a great job at. A few were so-so, but the only ones that were pulled were 2 bad calls over a long, shift and a half that this call taker pulled. And so his opinion was that I'm doing a really good job, but the only thing that ever gets noticed is one of those calls that goes south, that gets turned upside down. And, that leads to employee dissatisfaction and turnover. So what you want to have is a real a view of in totality of how that call performer is taking. And with 100% QA of all calls, you can actually go in and say, hey, we know in an unbiased way that Corti's going to score these calls, and we can give you the feedback as to how well you're performing.
Heck yeah.
On the other side, it happens the same way when you look at that. When Brady showed the Starbucks was, you just don't want to find where the problem issues are. Obviously, you want to have some ability to go in and say, hey, who are my top performings? And whether it's simply a leaderboard type that highlights these people that are performing at a high level, or you've got some kind of incentive program, you certainly want to reward the high performing people to be able to do that. And I think Brady's going to show you a leaderboard that accomplishes that exact thing for you.
Yeah, and so the Starbucks gift card or no Starbucks gift card, that is the question. That's whether you want to add some incentives or not. And in my experience, I've worked quite a bit with these types of leaderboards in the CPR quality area. You put a leaderboard up, doesn't matter if you put an incentive program. People want to be on that leaderboard. It's one of those raises all boats things. It's why just culture and being positive versus punishing negative behavior just works better. And that's the reason why we counsel leaders to put this leaderboard publicly in either in the dispatch center on the screen, or publish it every month or week or whatever makes sense. And if you want to put an incentive program on it, go for it. A Starbucks gift card, nobody's going to complain about that. The point is that call taker that Tim mentioned, that the 2 bad calls got pulled, not all the good ones, with a leaderboard and with an unbiased auto score on 100% of calls, those 2 calls are within the context of how he's performing overall. So if he is, in fact, as he believed, doing better on, across all the calls and is performing at a very high level, he's going to be up on this leaderboard. And then those 2 negative calls are going to be in the context of doing really well overall. So it's like, okay, how can the whole team learn from these 2 calls where something went sideways? And those 2 calls maybe, on the dashboard flagged as something that you do want to review, because the whole team is going to benefit from learning from that situation. The point is that it's an unbiased, it's a fair standard across the entire organization. There's no griping about, well, Mike doesn't like me, so he's reviewing my calls more negatively than everybody else's. All right, Tim, it's poll time. Time for another poll.
Okay. And what I'm not seeing is, hold on, focus review. So the question here that we'll do is, what type of calls do you focus for your reviews? And what we're showing up there is a couple of cardiac arrest, stroke, STEMI, trauma, or any of these others that you see there. Was where are you focusing your efforts?
And this is a multiple select. You can select multiple options. We're getting crazy.
All right, let's end the poll.
So cardiac arrest, not a surprise. Everybody these days is focusing on cardiac arrest. That's a huge, excuse me, that's a huge focus, because that's one of the areas that if you're focusing on cardiac arrest in your community, that's one of the areas where you can most impact your citizens' lives. If you can increase survival of out of hospital cardiac arrest just a little bit, that's one of the best places to invest resources at a community level. There we go. So that brings us to, how fast is Usain Bolt? How fast is Sonic? How fast can you queue 33 calls? Most of the time, it's a topic that comes up in our conversations with leaders of PSAPs all the time. How long does that take? It's a super manual process. I hear answers from 10 minutes, 15 minutes, up to 40 minutes. And it depends on the complexity of the call. So there could be any of those in there. The point is, there's a lot of man hours, manual time put into listening to these calls front to back, noting that certain things happened. And if we can speed that process up, we're not taking dispatchers, call takers off the floor. We're not taking supervisors off the floor. We're not letting those QA obligations slip because we're short on dispatchers and we just need people in seats, or we're not paying people overtime to do QA because we weren't able to find the time without using overtime. So how can this AI actually help that specific area? How can we speed up the manual QA review process? Because the auto scoring is great. It's not going to replace detailed manual call review. So you can see a screenshot here of an audio file. That's your 911 call. And what the Corti AI does is, as it listens to that call, whether it's listening in real time along with the call taker, talked about that real time side of things, or after the fact, or sending that recorded data into the Corti Explorer system, the AI is going to listen to the whole call and flag the key questions and the answers to those key questions automatically without human intervention. And then also, it's a little hard to see, but you've got this possible cardiac arrest flag. We're also, based on the patterns of the call, able to, and there's some really interesting peer-reviewed research on this, we're able to identify cardiac arrest based on the audio alone without human intervention. And if we're talking real time, you do it faster and more accurately than human dispatchers and call takers alone, which is awesome. But on the back end, you've got that flag now to say, this was a possible cardiac arrest call. Maybe it was dispatched as a fall. Maybe it was dispatched as a seizure. We can add that to our cardiac arrest pile and review all of those calls, because that you usually want to review all cardiac arrest calls. Those are the super high acuity. What you can do in the QA process, though, is jump right to those most important areas within your review form. So you've got a standard review form, you're looking for address question, jump right to address question. You've got the initial inquiry, jump right to initial inquiry, not listening to the whole area, make your notes, and then jump right to confirmed consciousness, confirmed breathing, where the AI already flagged it. Of course, you can adjust the timeframes. It's all very customizable in there, but the point is you can jump to those important key questions and the answers to those key questions without having to listen to the entire call, focus on the parts that matter. Now you can listen to the entire call and make sure you get every little detail as well on those higher acuity calls. The result, one of our main partners is Seattle Fire Medic One. They have found a 90% time savings on conducting QA. They went from around 30 minutes per call on average per review down to 3 minutes per review on average. That's huge time savings. And in a couple slides, that 33 calls, how long does it take to queue 33 calls? That's we've got a really cool quote from one of our Seattle partners talking about that specifically. So now is the part where we're going to answer that question of how the heck does the AI actually do all this stuff? So Tim, can you kind of take through that process from beginning to end as it's live? It's going to work the same way on the back end as well.
Absolutely. So the 911 call starts and we're listening to it at the moment, off hook for the call taker. We're listening to every millisecond that takes place in that calls. And one of the things that Brady mentioned is one, we're listening to the dialogue. So that's the actual words being spoken by the person calling the 911, as well as we're listening to the non-dialogue, the sounds. And the reason why we highlight that point was, when I started in this field of speech recognition many years ago, all up until today, you've had people that it was a very technology used by only a few. Now it's used by nearly everyone. Your iPhone, with Siri on your iPhone, with Alexa in your home. Those speech recognition technologies hear a speaker, and their job then is to block or mute all of the background noise. So the TV playing in the background, the dog barking in the background gets muted so they can focus on only what the speaker is saying. We're different than that because we believe first of all, the patient may not be the person that's actually calling in. And we pick up things like agonic breathing so that we can help with this detection as that call is taking place. We then put it through our machine learning modules. These are algorithms, and this is where we do the magic to say, hey, what is it that we're picking up? So we're making those annotations, those indexes that Brady showed you on the review that we're showing there. And this is where we're picking up one, what are we detecting? What's the severity level, and what protocol do we suggest should be used, so that we're giving this second opinion to the call taker as that call takes place. Now, if you look at it with another one, you see the audio recording, and there are the annotations that are taking place. These are questions from everything was, hey, what's the nature of your call? What's the address, and what's your callback number, as to those important questions of call takers as they go through the protocol, and anything else we're detecting. And this is where we're putting that structure into unstructured, that you're able then to go back and to QA these calls in a very impactful way. To Brady's point, Seattle is seeing a reduction from an average of 30 minutes per call to 3 minutes. So a huge time savings is one aspect, and the ability to search and get to those calls that are most important that you want to QA, you're able to do in a very expeditious manner.
Expeditious. So the fifth topic, the fifth way that AI can help measure performance and actually use that data to accomplish really important things is, humongous data, but you've got this trend data. You've got all of this across your entire organization. You've got the auto score, and you can see trends. On this little screenshot, we've got a dip right here. Significant dip. What does that potentially mean? And so one of the things when we're having these types of conversations with leaders of PSAPs and medical directors is, how do you see that these tools can be used? Because we're talking about this stuff. They're doing it every day, and they have really interesting ideas about how these tools can be used. One that I didn't think of until a couple of weeks ago, a director was, and I asked that same question, how do you see this tool being used? And his immediate thought was, everybody's dealing with not having enough dispatchers. If it's rare to find a PSAP that doesn't have ads out to try to hire more call takers, more dispatchers. And reducing burnout and hiring new dispatchers is a huge issue, a huge challenge that everybody's dealing with across the whole country. So his thought was, okay, if we have this trend data, what I can do, instead of saying, I need more resources to hire more people, and they go, okay, yeah, well, we don't, show me, don't tell me. Now we have the ability to, okay, we had the shift where we had 3 or 4 people on doubles, where they've been on for more than 10 hours now, and that was just because we had to do it. We had to pay some people overtime, had to run some doubles to just get butts in seats. And now we have the ability to show a trend line to say, actually, during that period of time, there was a significant decrease in the overall performance of the team. Here, Mr. Mayor, here, Mr. City Manager, whoever you need to get resources from, here's some actual data that shows we need more resources to hire more people to be able to provide adequate and exceptional quality service to our citizens. So that was one really cool idea of how to use that trend line. Another one is down at the individual call taker level, where you've got this trending data. Somebody, John's doing really well. All of a sudden, in the last couple of weeks, he's kind of taken a dip. Maybe there's some sort of organizational support that John needs, whether that's training in a specific area. You can find out if there's a specific area that's causing that downturn, or maybe it's some other type of organizational support. Last thing we wanted to show you guys is just one of our really close partners is Seattle Fire and Seattle Fire Medic 1. And they've been a partner of ours for 2.5 years and have helped us develop these tools so they're as useful as possible for as many PSAPs and dispatch centers as possible. Tim, can you walk us through some of this stuff? It's really exciting numbers.
Absolutely. So the 30 to 3 we've already hit on, was the average QA time went from 30 minutes to 3 minutes. So huge impact there. One of their objectives was to take those critical illnesses and have dispatched in under under 60 seconds, and we saw a 15% increase or decrease in the time of critical illness to dispatch times. And the last one is the overall call processing time, because of protocol adherence of the service levels that we talked about, that they were able to target their improvement areas and to see an overall 30% call processing savings time. And you see the quote from Dr. Counts from Seattle, where to answer the question, how many queues how long would it take you to queue 33 calls? And the answer for Dr. Counts was 1.5 hours. And you see her quote about thanks for sharing the magic, and someone had the foresight to ask, what would you have done before Corti? And her answer was, I wouldn't have attempted this because I couldn't have gotten through 33 calls in that amount of time.
Not as much data, not as much intelligence. They wouldn't know what was going on in their system nearly as much. So that is the bulk of what we wanted to show you. Let's go through a couple questions. Tim, do we have any questions in the chat?
We've got a ton of questions in the chat.
These fools going off?
No, we don't have any right now. But we'll have some. Hopefully, David's going to type one in for us.
Well, and yeah, let's for those who can join, definitely throw some questions up there for us. What is the meaning of life? Oh, Tim's going to answer that one. He's got more experience than any of us, because he's so ancient. Oh, that's not an answer. What a cop-out, Tim. Jeez. I really was curious. So thank you, everyone, for... oh, here we go. Heard you partner with Priority Dispatch. We have a blooming partnership with Priority Dispatch. Yes, we do. Focusing on all of the stuff that we talked about today. The one piece that... the one piece that is that we didn't really touch on today, that we're working with Priority Dispatch on integrating in with ProQA, is the live alerts, the live AI alerts. So when a call taker is on with a caller, having a flag that says this is cardiac arrest, it's hit our confidence level of the AI. That's telling, all right, let's skip right to telephone assisted CPR at that point. So that's one thing that we have, we didn't really touch on today, but that's something we're working on with Priority Dispatch, as well as integrating all of this stuff in with their ecosystem as well.
That's good.
Can this replace Priority Dispatch? A little bit of a sticky question. If you're looking to use criteria-based dispatching, you can use our front end and back end. If you're using Priority Dispatch, stick with them, and you want to stick with EMD, stick with them. We can add a whole lot of value on the back end with the quality assurance and the AI cardiac arrest detection stuff. All right. How accurate is your AI? I would like to ask you to clarify that question, Ernie. Which piece are you talking about? Or short answer is very.
Yeah, I would answer that Seattle saw an over 20% improvement on cardiac arrest detection as we aided the call taker. So the combination of a call taker's experience and AI, we saw a better than 20% increase in cardiac arrest detection.
And Ernie, you flagging the questions and answers on the back end, those key questions. We're constantly doing internal validations and external with our customers to make sure that we're, as we add more features, that we're that we're able to be as good or better than humans are at identifying this stuff. And that's the goal, and that's what we needed to hit before we could go to market with this stuff, is we're as good or better than human beings flagging those key questions and answers. Tim, can you answer Riley's question?
Can I answer my own protocols? That's almost what, what Brady alluded to, that if you've developed your own protocols, we have a tool to allow you to import those protocols into our platform to do all of that. And if you're using a product like, Priority Dispatch Pro QA, our recommendation would to continue to use that, and we will layer our artificial intelligence on top of Pro QA to give you that clinical detection and feedback.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for all the questions, everybody. We've got our contact info up here. I'm Brady Lavin. Tim is Tim Johnson. We call him TJ. You can call him TJ too. If you want to get more detailed, you just saw some screenshots here today. Would love to show anybody in more detail how all this stuff works, how it can work with your workflows and change things for the better in your PSAP and your dispatch center. So thank you for joining. Really appreciate it. Tim, any final wise words?
There's a saying that says, without data, you're like everyone else, just with another opinion.
If you can't measure it, you can't improve it.
Right.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.